hope you're all well. So now we've had a look at anaerobic respiration and aerobic respiration as well. So we're going to move on to have a look at metabolism and how the liver is involved in metabolism as well. So if you could flick to page 20 in your booklet and complete the do now task, you can pause here for 5 minutes, complete those questions, come back, and then we will mark them. So just to mark our questions, the first question says complete the word equation for aerobic respiration. And remember, aerobic respiration is the one that uses your oxygen, so glucose plus oxygen goes to carbon dioxide plus water. Which organ removes carbon dioxide from your body? Remember, it's your lungs that are involved in breathing and taking in that oxygen and taking out that carbon dioxide. Next question says, anaerobic respiration can occur when an athlete does vigorous exercise. This is because, remember, anaerobic respiration is when there is not enough oxygen in the body. The product of anaerobic respiration, remember we spoke about that toxic product, which is that lactic acid that causes your muscle fatigue. And this links to the next question that says, name the process that makes lactic acid in the athlete's muscles. And that is our anaerobic respiration. The next question had a graph, and it had the treadmill speed in kilometers per hour against the concentration of lactic acid in the blood. And the question says, how much more lactic acid was there in the athlete's blood when he ran at 14 kilometers per hour than when he ran at 8 kilometers per hour? So for this question, you should have used your graph. You should have looked at the concentration of lactic acid at 8 kilometers per hour and the concentration of lactic acid at 14 kilometers per hour. So at 8 kilometers per hour, it was 2.4, and 14, it was 6.8. And you should have worked out the difference between the two, which is 4.4 millimoles per dm cubed. The next question says, why is more lactic acid made in the muscle when running at 14 kilometers per hour than when running at 8 kilometers per hour? And you should have realized that when you're running faster, you need more energy, so more respiration is required. And if there's not enough oxygen, your body will have to respire anaerobically, and this produces more lactic acid. So moving on to today's lesson, we're going to define the term metabolism and give examples of metabolic reactions. We're going to describe some important metabolic reactions that are carried out by the liver as well. And then we are going to explain the role of the liver in removing that lactic acid. And remember that lactic acid is produced by your anaerobic respiration. So we're going to see how it's taken out and removed by the body. The metabolism of an organism is the sum of all the reactions that take place in a cell or in the body. And there are hundreds and thousands of metabolic reactions that occur in the body. And luckily, you don't need to know all of them. We're just going to have a look at some. And here are some common metabolic reactions that occur in the body. Some you might already know, like respiration and photosynthesis, but you feel free to pause here and have a read through some of the common ones, and we'll have a look at the common ones that occur in the liver in more detail in just a minute. So, the liver is the reddish-brown organ in our body that carries out numerous functions. And the liver is very active, and it has lots and lots of different metabolic reactions that occur in it. So the important ones are the removal of old red blood cells and the detoxification of poisons such as alcohol. So some alcoholics might find that they get some diseases of the liver. They might get things like liver cirrhosis because that increased toxin and that increased use of the liver to break down those toxins creates a lot of damage. So the liver is also involved in passing broken down products into the blood so that they can be taken out by the body, so that they can be excreted by the kidneys. And lastly, another important role of the liver is dealing with lactic acid produced by the muscles during anaerobic respiration. So what happens? How does it do this? So the muscles that are producing this lactic acid will have a blood supply around them, and that blood is going to take that lactic acid to the liver, and the liver is then going to convert this into glucose. And this creates an oxygen debt. So what this means is that all that glucose produced by turning that lactic acid into glucose has to be completely broken down in aerobic respiration to form carbon dioxide and water. And what this requires is oxygen. And this is what we refer to as oxygen depth. So we need extra oxygen in our body to convert or break down all of that glucose again. And this is sometimes why after some exercise, even when you stop exercising, you sometimes are really out of breath. And that is because your body is respiring anaerobically. And that glucose needs to be converted again. And some of that glucose that's not needed can be stored as glycogen in the liver until we need it again. And remember, we had a look at this when we were looking at aerobic respiration in school, and it's the same concept of that glucose turning to glycogen to be stored. So just to summarize, blood flowing through the muscles transports lactic acid to the liver. In the liver, lactic acid is converted back to glucose, and that oxygen debt is repaid. Any glucose that is not needed is converted to glycogen and stored in the liver. So that just summarizes how that lactic acid is removed. Coming back to our learning objectives, we have defined the term metabolism and given examples of metabolic reactions. We've described important metabolic reactions that are carried out by the liver, and we've explained the role of the liver in removing that lactic acid. If you could now flip to page 22 in your booklet, there's about 11 questions there for you to complete. You can use the new information on page 22 and 21 and 22 to support you with any questions you might be struggling with. But if you are still struggling, feel free to comment on Share My Homework to let me know, or drop me an email and I can help you further. I'll put the answers for these questions on Share My Homework as well, so then you can self-assess your work and see how you're doing. Have a lovely day. I'll see you for our seminar